In this video, I'll introduce the cloner object. The cloner object is part of the MoGraph tool set. And what the heck is MoGraph? MoGraph is a set of tools and other procedural things to help you build more complex animations. So to get started here, I have this letter C extruded. Over in my object manager, I have some other letter forms, but the visibility is turned off right now. To access the MoGraph toolset and to get to the cloner object, go up here on the toolbar, click MoGraph, and then cloner. And the cloner object is in our object manager. I'm going to clone our letter C here. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag the extruded letter C and drop it into the cloner object. So now you can see something happened there. It made multiple instances of the letter C. If I choose the cloner object in the object manager and go into the attribute manager, clicking on the object tab, there's lots and lots of stuff here we can play around with. I'm just going to introduce just a few things here though in this video. The first one is the count, and it's pretty obvious what that does. Let me increase the count to 5, and sure enough, you got 5 instances of the letter, or we'll say it's 6 there. 5 letter C's there. Now you can see they're all squished together. In the coordinates attributes down here, we can adjust that. Here's the default 0 along the X, 50 along the Y, and 0 along the Z. So I'm going to increase the value for along the Y-axis, and I'll back up here. And as you can see, as I increase the value for Y along the Y-axis, the distance between the objects increases. I can also let me increase the value along the Y-axis, and you see that's what happens. And I'll increase the Z, and no mysteries there. Let me set back X and Y back to Z here, or X and Z back to 0. Okay, now also when I'm in, let me point out that over in the attribute manager, the mode I'm in is linear. In linear mode, there's a little handle here. I can grab it and I can move my objects this way with the handle. So I can adjust the coordinates that way. Let me reset that back to 0 again. Okay. Another thing that's cool is rotation can also be changed with these rotation parameters here. So let me just play around with this rotation parameter, and you can see as I decrease it, that's the effect I'm getting. So now all of these, and let me reset it back to 0. Now all that stuff I just showed you with the coordinates, with the motion, the moving, and the rotation, and the count as well. Remember, all of that stuff can be animated. So you could have an animation where this expands to 100 C's, and they rotate and flip around and shrink back to just 1 C again, and so on and so on. So there's lots and lots of things you can animate just within this one frame of the attribute manager. Okay, so I'm in linear mode there. So let me go to mode and hit the drop down menu and just show you some other ones here. If I hit radial, no mysteries there, it's a radial, and you can set the count and radius. The other one, honeycomb array, which is interesting. It makes like this hexagonal grid of your cloned object. And then the one I want to show in more depth is this grid array. The grid array will default to a 3 by 3 by 3 cubic grid here. And so you get 3 along the X, 3 along the Y, 3 along the Z. Just to make this a little bit more clear, I'm just going to have one row along the C. So I have this X and Y grid here. And I'm going to increase the size of this thing to 1,000 by 1,000. Whoops! There's a microphone in front of me, so it's hard to hit my keyboard. So there is, and let me increase the count to 5 by 5. Okay, my 5 by 5 grid, 1,000 by 1,000. Let me turn on the other letter forms I made earlier. Turn on the visibility, and what happens if I grab all these letter forms, and notice that all the letter forms are residing at the 0, 0, 0 location. So I'm going to grab all these other letter forms, and I'm going to drop them into my cloner, and so I get a word that doesn't make sense. It's because, let me hit cloner here. I'm trying to spell the word clone here, and there's a reason why it didn't spell out. Okay, so first of all, I'm in grid array. The clones are an iterate, which means that the order of these things makes a difference. When I dropped the LONE into the cloner, my C got dropped down to the bottom. So let me click, hold, and drag, and very carefully move the letter C up to the front in there. Okay, so that's cool. So now I got what I wanted here. So the order, if you're in iterate, okay, the order of these in the object manager makes a difference. So if I move the letter N up here, that's what I get. All right, let me Command Z out of that. The other thing is, be careful not to, there might be some application for this. If you make one of your objects a child of another object, you're going to get some maybe unexpected results here. For example, I'm going to make the letter N a child of the letter O, and that's what happens. So if you're working with the cloner and you have several objects and you're getting some weird things that you're not expecting, check your object manager, because when you're moving this stuff around here, it's really easy to mess up the order, or to inadvertently make something a child of another object. So the only other thing I want to talk about here is, let me go back to the cloner object. So I'm in grid, and it's the clones are, this parameter is set to iterate. I can hit the drop down menu and choose random, and it'll randomly just set the display of the instances of the objects. So let me go back to iterate again. That's really about it. Just so, like, all of the just remember, all those parameters that I talked about can be animated, so you can get like a lot of different very, very interesting effects using the cloner object, and just playing around with the different attributes within the cloner object.